me being a chief product officer, I used to say that chief product officers are chief backlog officers. They sit on a backlog. That's what used to happen in the past, and because you could not deliver enough, and there were always more things to do. And I think now you're introducing this is concept, which is you cannot get something right without experimentation. And you need to have skills to be able to experiment. You just don't have to build features and outcomes and whatnot, but you really have to understand what is working and what is not working.
If you build software or lead people who do, then you're in the right place. This is Hard Calls. Real decisions, real leaders, real outcomes.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Hard Calls, the podcast that highlights the best product leaders from across the globe. If you're new to the show, I'd like to invite you to hit follow or subscribe so you can stay up to date with all the latest episodes. Today's episode is a conversation I had with Chirag Mehta from Constellation Research. We discussed the growing shift from being feature factories to become outcome-driven product leaders. And here's why I wanted you to hear this. We're at this inflection point where AI is compressing product life cycles in ways I have never seen before. From years to days in many cases. You can literally ship something the same day you start building it. But that also means you can ship the wrong thing faster than ever. In this conversation, we talk about what it really means to run your product team like a research lab, why your North Star metrics matter more than your feature count, and how the ratio of product managers to engineering is fundamentally changing. We also get into something I don't think enough people are talking about. How to make sure your good decisions actually get rewarded and not buried in backlogs. If you've ever felt like a chief backlog officer instead of a chief product officer, or if you're trying to figure out how to experiment without burning through your budget, this one's for you.
So we're going to have a fun talking about anything and everything about product and experience life cycle. I have been a chief product officer in the past, and now I serve chief product officer as buyers and as end users. So this is going to be a fun conversation. So let me start with something what I'm seeing. And there's been a lot of chatter around features versus outcomes. What we have been hearing that features are great, but features won't take you anywhere. Anyone can build a feature in a short period of time. You can ship a product in a day if you want to, but it might not do anything. So you might end up building and shipping something, but that might not help achieve a business outcome. So we're seeing this transition from this feature-driven software development to outcome-driven product development. Do you see the same thing? Maybe that's a good starting point.
Yeah, it's a great starting point, Chirag, and this is going to be so fun. Both of us serving product people, but being product people. So I'm really looking forward to the discussion. I think that even prior to AI momentum that we've seen over the last year, there really has been a shift in focus from feature factory to outcomes, because we can spend a lot of money and celebrate that we shipped a new product or a new feature, but so what? If people don't use it, if it doesn't drive ARR, if it doesn't reduce support costs, who cares that we shipped it because we shipped the wrong thing? Well, fast forward to today, and I know we'll spend more time on this throughout, AI has come along, the ability to use incredible prototyping tools and even get to real product is easier than ever and quicker than ever, right? And you've got tools like Lovable and Bolt and Cursor, and all these tools are incredible and they get product out there even quicker. But it can also mean we just build more bad product or more features that still don't drive the outcomes that we're trying to drive. And it's really fun watching this sort of evolution in product, that product people are truly strategy and business people, and accountability is to the same things that the rest of the company has in terms of business metrics.
Yeah. So I like what you said, strategy and business people. And if you look at the sort of product manager, typical product manager, and I'm an engineer by background, and as part of my team, I have product managers who are engineers and people who had no engineering experiences. So we have see this combination where anyone and everyone could be a product manager. You have to be passionate about technology, domain, and all that. But you make a point that things are changing now. There's this idea being you have to be technical enough to figure out what is going on, because once again, it's all about technology. You're building products, but we are talking about outcomes, and outcome is about business and strategy. You have to translate your company's goals into what is happening outside with respect to your market, competition, and with respect to your customers. So what does this blend of technology and business looks like?
Yeah, I like to think of it as a combination of inside out thinking and outside in thinking. And I think engineers, maybe I'm biased because I am one, can make great product people. They really can, because they nail the inside out thinking, the ability to play with technology and think of the art of possible, to innovate something different. And especially in the era of AI, to be able to break a problem set down, right? To understand, here's the outcome I'm trying to drive, here's the problem, and then what are the pieces, what are the chunks to start shipping and get velocity and get things out there. And that inside out thinking is very natural for engineers, but that can lead you to ship a lot of bad product. And so to me, it doesn't matter, engineer or not, outside in thinking, also some people might call it product sense, it is all about knowing your market and the outcome you're trying to drive. And to have very strong product sense, you have to know those jobs to be done. You have to know your users inside and out and what problems are truly painkillers, not vitamins for them. But that still has to layer up to your own company's outcomes. So like the outside in thinking part kind of, and the business strategy comes in two flavors, right? The first is knowing your users, the value you're trying to drive for them, the problems you're trying to solve. And then the second is, what am I trying to do for my company, right? Am I trying to get new ARR? Am I trying to create a new product for the same customer, but solve a different problem? And then really get your product North Star metrics aligned to that.
It's interesting. You said that you could end up shipping a wrong product. And I think what we are seeing with AI, that it really compresses the life cycle. And as I said just early on, is you could build something, ship something the same day, and guess what? You ship the wrong thing. So do you see that as part of this strategy, part of this validation, and what people generally refer to as a product sense, as you rightfully described, which is really know your end users. But now it is giving us this ability to accelerate these feedback loops.
Yeah.
We used to wait for hours, days, weeks, sometimes to get feedback, and like, hey man, we shipped the wrong thing. Now we have to go fix it. But now those feedback loops are much faster. What is your sense? Do you see that feedback loops are faster? And if so, how is product management as a discipline evolving with that?
Yeah. Well, I think it's magical that feedback loops are shortening and cycles are shortening, because if you are strategic, if you do know the business outcome, if you do have product sense and know your users, these quick feedback cycles allow us to do true experimentation at scale, right? And so if we know we're laser focused on our North Star metric and whatever that might be, could be a time to value metric, could be a conversion metric, could be retention, whatever it is that you're trying to drive, if you understand it, now all of a sudden you can try 3 different things or 100 different experiences to different subsegments of your population, get feedback, and really nail what that product experience is, what the features are that you need to build, even before you engage engineering, right?
Because even before you engage.
Yeah. I mean, obviously you should be engaging your partners and having conversations all along, but you don't need hands-on keyboard for engineering to get prototypes out and do experiments and get feedback. Not with today's tools that are out there. And what you need, engineering, I always think engineering is my gold resource. It's scarce and I have to use it really wisely. Now, by the time I'm asking engineering to build something at scale that users love, my confidence on the right feature driving the right outcome is super high because I've done those experiments and feedback loops with prototypes I can build in product.
Yeah, I think I love this thing. I think what you are saying is the signal is of very high quality. One of the challenges what people have seen, and I've been on both sides. I've been on the product side and engineering side. Engineers would tell you that product managers don't know anything. Product managers would go and say, well, engineers are way too demanding. They just don't listen to us. And they're both right, because what has happened in the past is that we just never had such a high quality signal from customers, from market. So you end up wasting time building something or modifying something that actually no one wants, and no one doesn't actually solve any problem. So now, given the accelerated prototyping, going out there, putting it in front of customers, they don't have to be super working, engineered, highly scalable, kind of prototypes, but you actually get that strong signal that it is actually solving the problem or not. That's so right. given that, and given where this dynamics are going, I think we get the outcome part, which is you can get to the outcome much faster and you can experiment a lot, but it's still about cost. I think the cost it's still the cost, and companies have been looking at, and the clients that we advise, one of the questions is like, look, I don't want to do endless experimentation. And because it is still expensive, even with the help of AI, if you are doing that. So what is your recommendation? What are you seeing on the cost side? How do you make sure that you stay within the budget and you still experiment, but still deliver a great outcome? It's like having a cake and eat it too, but I hope with AI we can do that.
Yeah, I think we can. Look, I think it is very easy to give yourself a false sense of, oh, I did a great job and I stayed in budget and got the project done, when you don't focus on outcomes. Yeah. Hey, yeah, I can get the project done. Now, is what I built amazing? And I think you can go the flip side, which is you can do endless experimentation and also not drive outcomes. So to me, I don't think it's about, if you're focused on ROI, which everybody should be, engineering technical products, especially in the world of AI, are expensive to build and expensive to maintain. And so holding yourself and your team as a business person accountable to ROI is incredibly important. So if you're doing that and you say, this is the amount of money that we're going to spend right now, and this is the amount of time, and you've time boxed something to get something out there, if you're focused on outcomes, you're not focused on, did it take me 10 experiments or 100 or 2? You're focused on, I delivered a product that delivers outcomes. And so I think that's how you hold the team accountable. And I think that your likelihood of getting an outcome is much higher if you are experimenting than if you just do a couple of surveys, do a few Zooms, talk to a few important customers, and have a false sense of security. Because it's not about, it is about building a product that people will buy or use. It's often about the details. When we talk about product sense and then product taste, it's about getting the details right that make people want to come back and do something over and over again, that make the value something they can't live without. And you will never get to that level of detail without some pretty serious experimentation. And so I think that I don't think experimentation gets in the way of ROI. I think it's what delivers ROI. But either way, you're not going to get it if you don't know your North Star metric and you're not relentlessly measuring.
So experimentation sounds like a research lab. Hope it's not a physical research lab, but it sounds like, we are experimenting a lot more than we could have in the past. And I generally joke, and sort of me being a chief product officer, I used to say that chief product officers are chief backlog officers. They sit on a backlog That's what used to happen in the past, and because you could not deliver enough, and there were always more things to do. And I think now you're introducing this is concept, which is you cannot get something right without experimentation, and you need to have skills to be able to experiment. You just don't have to build features and outcomes and whatnot, but you really have to understand what is working and what is not working. So how do you think about this concept of research lab or sort of research driven or experiment driven product management sort of as part of the larger discipline?
Yeah, I think that one comes back to what I said before, which is you have to have extreme understanding of the problems you're trying to solve and empathy and understanding of your users and their jobs to be done. But I think equally, you have to understand how to measure and what success looks like. And it's not, when I spend time, and I know you get to too, with product leaders across the world, they know they're trying to drive ARR, right? They know their new product needs 5 million in ARR, 10 million in ARR, whatever
today,
it is.
10 million today and
10
100 million
today.
at the end of the year. Yes.
Yeah, they know that. That's not a question. But that's not a North Star metric in product. That's a lagging indicator, not a leading indicator.
That's a lagging indicator. Okay. Yeah. Interesting.
Right. That takes time, right? I can't tell when I shipped a feature or a new product this week if that's driving ARR. That takes so much time. So then you have to start to think, well, this is what's hard in a research lab is what is the thing that I should measure, right? What is the North Star metric that matters that eventually is going to drive ARR? And so, for example, it could be eventually just, are people logging in? Okay, they're logging in. Are they doing the job to be done? And are they getting it done quicker with my product than they were before they bought the product? Then it could be, well, okay, what's the real, they may be getting a workflow done, but maybe that's, or they may be completing transactions, but maybe the ultimate value, especially in this era of AI, is they don't have to do anything. So now you start getting really cute and tricky when you think about analytics and metrics and outcomes, because it might be that the true value is that the person doesn't have to do anything at all, but it just gets done. It gets done by your agents that you're building.
Yeah, I say that,
right?
The best user interface is no interface.
Yeah, really, I don't want to do anything in your product. I just want it to work, right? So I think that having that mindset that you just shared, right? The best user interface is me doing nothing at all, and you just building my confidence that it was done and done correctly. Like, that's how we have to think. And when we're running this research lab, we're going to try 3 different things. Which one built trust? Which one was most efficient, right? Which one was highest quality? And then how do I put each of those things together to nail this experience?
Trust, efficiency, and quality. Interesting. And you could prioritize any which way you like.
You could.
Sometimes you don't want to be efficient. If your job is to just get trust, then you just focus on that one metric. So I think this leads to the product life cycle, because you are never working in a sort of in one part of the life cycle. You're always, as a product manager, as product leaders, you're building something new, you're maintaining something that's going on, and you are putting out fires. There's an escalation, and you're on the call. That's a life, that's a life all product leaders and all product managers actually live. But the thing is, the discovery to delivery, like as part of Pendo and part of Pendo's platform and products, you are in this just like a smack middle of this life cycle. What is changing? I know AI is impacting all parts of life cycle. We have seen some in a good way, some not so much in a good way. What are you seeing?
Yeah, I definitely think it is changing the product development life cycle, where even though it's been iterative for a long time, there was, hey, let's define the business outcome, let's plan it, let's do designs, let's get feedback, let's build, let's watch, let's ship, let's enable the customers in the field, especially in B2B software, and then let's measure, learn, and sort of start back over. it's now that from business outcome definition, design, build, get feedback is sort of all meshed together because we can use these prototyping tools to build something that feels really real and it is real and get feedback from it. That whole sort of double diamond process and portion of the life cycle sort of gets all smushed into one. And it's like, hey, I have an outcome I'm trying to drive. Here's a whole bunch of different experiments to run. And a lot of that's happening before build. So I think what we used to think of as build is like, let's get this minimum set of features out there and get feedback on it and iterate. And now, if build is like true engineering build, that happens after we've done a ton of prototyping and have a much stronger sense of our product that we're trying to build and what's going to work. So it really just sort of really accelerates that first part of the life cycle.
I was chatting with one of the buyers and large financial company, and what they shared with me, they use traditional sprints, just 2 weeks. This concept of sprint zero, which is you get your designers and PMs and engineers together, you put a plan and all that. And what he told me, that at the end of the sprint zero, we actually have a product. It's not a working product. It's not something that we would actually ship. But sprint zero is not about planning. To your point, there is no double diamond.
Right.
The end of sprint zero, you are delivering a version of what you're actually going to ship. And then the build begins. To your point, people are getting in and now like, okay, how do I bring this thing to life? How do I make sure that this thing scales and this thing has the right compliance? And once again, this is a bank, so
yeah,
has all these rules. And I think what we are also seeing, that we are hearing this chatter from non-product leaders as well, and this is coming from CFOs, which is finally like, I now have a tool and common set of metric that I can measure the product teams on. Because in the past, as you said, people would go and say, well, I'm going to ship something. We're not going to find out until the end of the year whether we increased our AR or not. So you can't really hold teams accountable to that, because that's just too complicated. So what do we do? So I think given this outcomes and given this ability to actually get early validation, we are seeing that more non-product leaders are getting engaged in the life cycle. Do you see that with your customers? Is it going beyond product now?
For sure. I mean, I think first is we can certainly hold ourselves accountable, and our peers can hold us accountable as product leaders to, are people using the things that we built, right? And are they delivering value? And I see product scorecards having to show up in C-suite, those being rocks that people plan. And so those are business level conversations. Like, it's not an infinite budget. It's not an infinite set of your cool next idea, but CFOs, CEOs, and really the whole C-suite holding product and engineering accountable to, are people using what you shipped? And that's where Pendo is a huge help. And then in turn, not just did they use it, but are they getting value from it? And then that turns into revenue for the company, right? And so I do see that being a broad C-suite conversation, and certainly one that a great finance CFO leader is going to care a lot about. But even the CRO, right? The CROs, if you've got a leaky bucket, right?
Yeah.
This is very applicable in any software company. You're selling a product, and if people don't renew, that's a problem, right? And the CROs spending all this work to acquire new customers. And if we're losing customers, that's a big problem. And product has accountability there for sure. And so again, like, that's a great place where you see CROs logging in and saying, hey, are people using the product that we sold them? And then using that data to drive risk conversations of, is this a healthy customer, red, yellow, or green? Well, I mean, a CRO cares deeply about that in terms of making their number.
Yeah. I was chatting with this is a software company, very large software company, and they are changing the way the product teams are funded. And the retention, there's a very specific bucket dedicated for just product retention. And they had a version of that. Usually it was funded by go-to-market teams, but it was very one-off in the past, saying, hey, I have this renewal with this customer coming up. Some strange thing is going on. Can you go work on these 2 features? That's not working anymore. So now what they have done is there is a retention budget, and it is directly tied to whether we can renew someone or not. Because one of the things which I explain to enterprise software, or people who are not in enterprise software, the way it is different than consumer software. This in enterprise software, your buyers are not your end users.
Yeah.
Right? People who are writing checks to you are not the ones who are using your software.
Yeah.
And people who are using your software have little to no influence on who is buying software. It happens especially in large companies. Versus consumer software is you're paying with your money, paying with your wallet, and so you have a say in what you actually use, what you don't use.
Yeah.
And I think it's good to see that this rapid acceleration, AI compressing the life cycle is actually is actually favoring end users, because now that retention end users are logging in, whether they are doing something or not, it actually matters.
Yeah.
So let's switch to AI a little bit, right, for a few minutes. Now there's AI, obviously, that is impacting the life cycle and the way you do things differently because you are using AI to do X, Y, and Z. But also many companies now, they are just building AI products, and that software looks very different. That software does not look anything like that we have seen before. It probably uses some of the components that we know. It still runs in the cloud, and it still has maybe containers, and it uses APIs, and it has certain SDKs. But the nature of sort of how you build software, as in you train models, to you build agents, to you deploy these agents, to you deploy these models, the way you work with your customer data, to the way you work with your own data, this is very complicated.
Yeah.
So how are you helping people build what we call sort of AI native products?
Well, first, if you go back to Pendo's roots of analytics, we helped you understand if features got used, what people's workflow or click paths were to getting a job done, and helped you really understand that and optimize that. Well, the same thing needs to happen in agentic experiences, except there's not really clicks, right? We're typing in questions, we're having conversations, and there's a lot of similarities, yet there's a lot of differences. Similarities mean I still need to get value. I came in to ask the software a question. Did I click and go run a report or look at a dashboard? Or did I ask an agent a question? Either way, I need the correct response. Now, here's what's wildly different for engineering and product teams. If you go back to our click traditional world of SaaS, things being correct was pretty binary, right? We built unit test cases. Even if it was an API call, it came back, yes, no, it worked. We clicked it, the answer came back. But when you're talking about having a conversation, it's not binary. There's not one correct response, right? This is an agent on the other side that's been trained, and multiple answers could be the right answer. And so understanding quality and getting evals right is critical for all of us building agentic experiences. And also as product managers, being able to understand the conversations your agents that you're building are having and the workflows that they're completing, and what is your user base trying to accomplish, right? You kind of knew what they were trying to accomplish when they went in and clicked X, Y, and Z. Now you've got to inspect conversations to have that same level of knowledge. And for us at Pendo, that's been a big focus for us over the last year, is building what we call agent analytics to help product managers really understand those conversations and what their users are trying to accomplish.
Interesting. Now, one of the things which actually none of us and no, the customers, we talk to have a clear answer on, so far at least, is how do we structure teams? And how do we, there's a golden ratio in the past between product managers and designers and engineers, and Microsoft had one way of doing things, and large company Google did a different way. And the industry kind of adopted a sort of version of that. And we were fine. I think we understood what that good ratio kind of looks like for your company, whatever you are doing. That's falling apart. I don't think that ratio is true anymore. We are also hearing, and this is sort of unfortunate, where, hey, I can replace a junior engineer, with AI. I don't need to hire anyone, from college anymore. It's obviously not true. I think it's, Andy Jassy, he called it one of the most bizarre ideas that he has ever heard, that you can replace entry-level jobs with AI. There's no such thing. We have known this thing for a while, but the thinking, people are still thinking about it. It's kind of odd that way. How do you see that? Do you think ratio is changing? Do you think it's the same thing? Do you think team composition is changing as you build AI products?
I think it does depend on the kind of product that you're building and the team you're in. I mean, even AI first products typically have some sort of back end special sauce, right? Where the work is happening, where the data is stored, where the analytics might be processed. And those teams might look like they looked before. But when you talk about, in general, AI is giving engineering scale and velocity. Can it make great architectural decisions? I don't think so yet. So can it build software on a shaky foundation and create a shaky experience? It can. Can it augment great engineers who have built a great architecture and a great foundation and give it scale and velocity? I absolutely have seen that happening. And I think that's only going to continue to expand. So if you multiply that by the efficiency you get by product managers using prototyping tools and not wasting engineering time sort of in the experimentation phase and in the discovery phase, and being more confident in the outcomes that they're going to deliver by the time they get to engineering, I am definitely seeing areas where the ratio of product to engineering is changing, and where you might have needed a product manager, and 7, 8 engineers to build a great product, you might get away with a product manager and 3 or 4 engineers, sometimes 2, to build the same great product. But that comes back to the product manager knowing the outcomes, having a very strong product sense, going through and curating experiences through their research lab. And then it depends on engineering being top-notch architects, distinguished engineers in terms of their foundation building, and then utilizing AI to scale them. But I'm definitely seeing that happen.
It's interesting you say this. And the way I've described this, that people have misunderstood the biggest hidden part of AI. The AI initially was seen as sort of the efficiency, engineering efficiency, that you can drive, you can write code, you can ship code, you can write test cases, which is great. But I don't think it's the biggest accelerator. I think it's a low hanging fruit, which everyone should use it. And if AI can write code, you should ask AI to write code. You don't have to do that. But I don't believe that's the biggest unlock. The biggest unlock is if you make a right decision upfront, it will give you the scale and the velocity that you're referring to. So in the past, even if people made bad decisions or not so good decisions, it didn't really mean much, because you wasted some effort anyways, and it took a year and a half, and by that time you have no idea what happened. So a lot of good product managers that I have worked with and that I advise, they were very frustrated by this fact that their good decisions were not being rewarded. So even if you had great product sense, you became a Chief Backlog Officer, because what am I going to do now? It's a great decision. I know for sure that we need this. I have customers demanding this. I know we can get revenue. I know we can get to the outcome, but you could not actually go deliver that. So how do you use AI to make informed decisions and judgments upfront so that you can actually use the scale and velocity at the tail end to actually ship much faster? So that's fascinating. This is great. I would like to ask you one last question. If you want product leaders to have one key takeaway, if they remember one thing out of this conversation, what would that be?
I think the number one would have to be have a really strong product scorecard and understand the outcomes you're trying to drive. And I'm not just talking about revenue at that level, but the specific product metrics that are leading indicators that are going to drive those outcomes. And then create that research lab and experiment relentlessly to achieve your outcome.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Trisha. This was a fantastic conversation. I really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Chirag. Thanks for having me here.
Thank you for listening to Hard Calls, the product podcast where we share best practices and all the things you need to succeed. If you enjoyed the show today, share it with your friends and come back for more.